Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pulse, the Heartbeat of America. And I am the Tech Boy. We're here coming at you guys live. It's been a great week for everyone. I hope you've had a nice week. Lots to get into today. Of course, we launched TTB Faith, so we'll be getting into that and some other tech topics as well. But first, let's go over to our cameras. Let's go to the techboy.org where we have our Take 3 uh, uh, series of articles. That's what we're going to be getting into because it really goes into everything that we're talking about today. So, first, promised you guys that we're going to talk about ChatGPTeen, as I deem it, introducing ChatGPT for teens, built for learning, backed by protection. So let's just get this out of the way right now. No one's going to use this. Not one teen's going to use ChatGPTeen. All right, it forces you into all these, parental controls. It has some features that make it essentially not the best for what the teens are going to want to use it for, but there are some useful features in it. So let's assume that the teens are going to use ChatGPT. Let's look at the features, and I'm going to give you, as promised in this breakdown, what I like, what I don't like. So anyway, here we have ChatGPT. Hope you guys can see this on the screen. We're introducing ChatGPT for teens, experience designed to help teens learn, yada, yada, yada. You have to be under 18, or they state the ages between 13 or 17. They automatically place into ChatGPT for teens. So right off the bat, what do we see here? Just say you're 18 and a senior in high school. Let's say you're mapping out running for high school election, as I did in 2023, of course. But I was about to go back to Energizer, but I decided, no, we're not going to go back there again. But, everyone knows I was running for president and going against these radical, crazy people. So I was using ChatGPT to help me win the election. Already have some chat. We're all see conservative circle right here in the chat. Let's go. Anyway, I was using ChatGPT to help me win the election. So I could have just told it, hey, look, I'm not 17, I'm 18, and they wouldn't have done anything like that. So as long as you don't chat anything where you say that you're exactly 14, then you're not going to be placed into this environment. Also, again, like I say, for America, why the United States should focus on artificial intelligence is that there are other countries in the world. ChatGPT doesn't exist in a vacuum. America doesn't exist in a vacuum. So these kids are just going to go switch off. They're going to go to Gemini. They're going to go to Copilot. They're going to go to, God forbid, Snapchat AI, or maybe even what we don't want happening, which I think is far more dangerous than a kid getting access to ChatGPT. I mean, we've lived for 4 years with ChatGPT and they've been fine. Yes, there have been a few cases of some kids doing stupid stuff, just like there were a few cases of some kids eating dang Tide Pods. I mean, honestly, if you're dumb enough to eat a Tide Pod, you probably would have done that with or without TikTok, with or without any app or trend telling you to do so. But I digress. But let's look into the features that ChatGPT is offering you. So there's a study mode, which gives you guiding questions and step-by-step support to help teens understand the material, which I think, okay, fine. I mean, that's a useful feature. Again, we're going to pretend that people are going to use this. Oh, Robert Kester, wow, I have not seen you here in a long time. For those of you who are new to the channel, he was one of the first guests ever. I think he was on podcast episode 9, so way back in 2022, maybe early 2023, he was here on the show. So welcome back to this old guest, also an international guest from the UK. Anyway, so there's a study mode. Cool. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's already built into ChatGPT. I don't really use ChatGPT anymore. I pay for Gemini. I pay for Grok, so that's what I'm going to be using. And then we have homework reminders that's going to tell you to not try to cheat on your homework. I mean, really? Do you think that the kids are going to be like, oh, I shouldn't cheat on my homework? Oh, well, I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time that I shouldn't cheat on homework assignments? Oh, well, I guess I'm not going to do that. No, they're just going to skip and go to some other chatbot. I mean, there's this Adventure Odyssey episode from like 2006 where Twint, the white, and I think it might be Jared, one of the kids, they're inside the imagination station, and the imagination station is essentially teaching them math. So Mr. Whitaker cloned their teacher and puts them in math class to help them do their homework. And it's supposed to help them solve their problem step by step, like ChatGPT study mode. What do? The kids go in and speed ahead from the imagination station from the problem. They scan the problems, they speed ahead through the explanation, they speed through the step-by-step and then just take down the answer. So they basically use the imagination station to cheat. And one of the other kids, he uses the imagination station to give insults to his teacher in virtual reality, but then he gets virtual reality and actual reality mixed up, and he starts giving insults to his teachers in real life. So the more of the story is, don't cheat, don't be mean to people in virtual reality because you could be in real life. But the truth of the matter is this: like, if kids are going to cheat, I mean, people are cheating in godforsaken Snapchat AI, which is the worst artificial intelligence chatbot to have on your phone, right? I mean, technically, Snapchat is the everything of it. Okay, this stupid light. This stupid light is trash. It's going back to Best Buy. $10, and it uses a freaking micro USB charging port in the big 2.6. And you're out here dying already. It's crazy. Let me see. I'm gonna turn on my phone flashlight. Oh, goodness, there we go. And my phone flashlight is better anyway. In any case, when we're talking about these ChatGPTs for teens, they're just going to go out there and do something else. Okay, look, like I've said multiple times, if people want to cheat, they are going to cheat. I'm not condoning cheating. I'm just saying that it exists. That's what's going to happen, regardless of what you want. All right, on to the next thing. Quizzes and virtual learning realizations. I do like that. Again, I'm pretty sure you could do this in regular ChatGPT. Right, we have some of this stuff in Notebook LM. You can import your entire YouTube channel. You can import your entire, websites, and it can give you quizzes based on the content. You can import a study guide, and it will give you quizzes based on the content. In fact, we did an article about Notebook LM this week. I will do a video about that today, live here on Pulse to Heartbeat of America. And with the study hours, teens or parents can choose times when study mode is on by default, making it easier to turn study habits into a routine. Doubtful anyone's going to use that, because the teens are not going to self-regulate their artificial intelligence usage. That's not what's going to happen. There is a bit of a disconnect with artificial intelligence, where this vast majority of people, at least in the United States, are pro-artificial intelligence, but they're anti-data center, which is kind of weird. It's like being, pro-cell phones, but anti-cell phone towers. Of course, there is a minor constituency of the people who are actually anti-artificial intelligence data centers and actually anti-artificial intelligence, but there's so many teens out there who make artificial intelligence memes and content, but be like, oh, we don't want the data centers, it's bad for society. It's kind of a weird thing right there. So I really doubt that the teens are going to regulate their own artificial intelligence usage inside of some sort of a study mode. And I think the crossover section between adult who is pro AI for studying, but also wants to give their kids parental controls, is only the type of person who doesn't exist. They're the type of person who exists in media. Like, it's the perfect parent. Oh, look, my kid, they begged for a phone. They got a phone at 13, 14 years old, but we put on the stupid Bark app on there, and it spies on them. And we want them to be able to code, and we want them to be able to have access to the future using artificial intelligence, but we also don't want them to be able to be distracted on the internet, and we don't want them to be really using anything on the internet. I don't think that type of parent actually exists, where you have people who are pro artificial intelligence, but have these parental control apps on their kids' phones, and the kids also pro artificial intelligence. Because remember, you're taking the kids who have to be pro artificial intelligence both ways, right? There's so many people who feel lonely and desperate. They don't really have any purpose in life, which is why we're going to be launching TTB Faith to help give people more of a sense of purpose. Anyway, there's people who are lonely and desperate, don't really have any sense of a purpose in life. And instead of, reading a book, scrolling Instagram Reels, they have to find some sort of cause to go and protest about. So sometimes it might be immigration, sometimes it might be artificial intelligence, but it's not anything they actually, deeply care about. So that's ChatGPT for teen. With their learning visualizations, you can see what it looks like. And I think this does show a broader problem that we do have here. OpenAI is not making ChatGPTeen because it's in their best because it's out of the goodness of ours, because it's in their best interest, because you have these artificial intelligence companies who are terrified that the government is going to regulate the heck out of everyone. And I'm going to do a more long-form video about this, but in the 90s, there was a Microsoft suit where Microsoft was getting sued by the Department of Justice because they were bundling a browser with the operating system, which is, nonsense. Back then, of course, people were actually selling browsers for like $50. Now you can't sell a browser for $50. No one's going to buy that at all, right? And it's ludicrous to assume that the government would sue someone for including a browser with the operating system. Well, OpenAI doesn't want to get sued because, we have a anti-AI movement that's ascending. Again, I have to say, this is good people on both sides, but I'm just talking about in the context of these suits. There's an anti-AI movement who is ascending, and in this movement, they're taking on friends cases. Just remember that ChatGPT has over almost 1 billion users, and they're taking on these friends cases of 14-year-old kids who were chatting with character AI, they're chatting with their chatbots, and they unfortunately they killed themselves. So they did something wrong or illegal. And yeah, obviously, with any computer program, with any technology that has almost 1 billion users, some people are going to do some bad things, but because they know that these movements know that the government is not going to be up to date on tech. I mean, in the 90s, they're talking about trying to decouple Internet Explorer from Microsoft, which is just ridiculous. Obviously, you should have a browser come with the computer. And in 30 years from now, we're going to be looking at all this legislation that we see now and go, what is this? This is nonsense. Because finally, artificial intelligence is going to be within the public psyche like a browser is in front of the public psyche. The DOJ wouldn't try to do something stupid like that today because it's just nonsense. In any case, you have the anti-AI movement that's doing this, but the OpenAI wants to do self-preservation. So what are they going to do? They're going to be launching these teen features. And if they want to launch ChatGPTeen, that's fine. It's all for them. Like if they want to have something like this with ChatGPTeen, or Meta has Messenger Kids, and they want to do something like that, fine. But the problem with this is I do not want our technology, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, to be forced to use a ID to sign up for an account that gives you access to everything. Now, I'm not saying that you should be able to have access to full NSFW stuff. So if in my opinion, NSFW stuff where you're making like straight, illicit content with artificial intelligence should be banned, right? But if you have to have that, then yeah, you should need an ID for that. But if you're just doing normal chatting, like I did when I was growing up with ChatGPT, doing edits with my website, planning my presidential campaign, asking it some questions, maybe about the Bible, maybe asking it some personal questions that maybe I wouldn't want to ask someone else, right? I don't want to have my ID attached to that, and I wouldn't want to actually ask someone that in person. Well, I think that there are tons of kids who are like me, and maybe there's kids who aren't like me, but they're not dumb and are going to do, if ChatGPT tells them to jump off a cliff, they'll also jump off the cliff. Like, yeah, sure, I admit that teens do dumb things as well. But let's be honest here. We give teenagers cars at 15, 16 years old. We give them the driver's licenses then. We let them drive around in a car that can go up to 120, 130 miles an hour. I had this one person who said he went to my school, and he said that he was on the freeway going 130 miles an hour on a wet road in Houston. Why would you do that? I have no idea, but still, I mean, I think that's a lot more dangerous than giving a person access to ChatGPT. Right now, of course, I'm not talking about economically dangerous or environmentally dangerous. I'm talking about on the personal level. I don't think that having access to this is that dangerous. I mean, it's the same information that's on the internet. It's the same information that's in encyclopedias. It's the same information that's at the library. I spent a lot of time reading the encyclopedia growing up. I spent a lot of time at libraries. I've recorded episodes at the libraries. I spent a lot of time reading stuff online growing up. So, I mean, it's just making it faster and easier, maybe. I guess it's giving some of the dumber kids, more ideas to do dumb stuff. But at that point, you don't deserve to have access to that. I don't think that we should have the America's tech policy should not be decided and regulated by mid-wit, low IQ teens. I'm sorry, right? I don't want, 70 IQ Tommy over there, he might accidentally, do something stupid because if he has access to ChatGPT, so we need to regulate everything. No, that's not it. I don't want the government regulating artificial intelligence in the sense where you need to have an ID to use artificial intelligence. I don't want the government, regulating where you have to have these special teen accounts for social media and all of that nonsense. No, look, obviously there's dangers to that. Obviously there's dangers to being, anything. I mean, yeah, technically, we can go back to our evangelical audio dramas and Kids Corner. What do we see in Kids Corner? That Liz is afraid to go out. Spike's afraid to go outside because there might be a earthquake. So he runs around with a bucket on his head, and they basically wrap themselves in bubble wrap and all of this nonsense. And yeah, technically it would be safer to wrap yourself in your house in bubble wrap, the earthquake protection kit at your side with the helmet out there, but you can't go out there and experience life and do the things that God wants you to do. And I don't think that's what's best for society as a whole. It's not best for the personal individual as well. I'm huge on personal liberty and being able to do stuff of that nature. Anyway, going back to our next topic from ChatGPT, we have the Google Pixel 11 series. We're going to put a pin in that because I want to do a reaction video to Mr. Who's the Boss's video on the Google Pixel 11 series of devices. So we're going to circle back to that. Today, we're going to do that today. And Notebook LM. And this actually does link with our Christian segment. So before we talk about our Google app and Notebook LM, I wanted to show you a podcast clip from Bryce Crawford. This is a new segment that we're going to do here. It's part of TTB Faith. If you guys did not see, we announced TTB Faith last week. So TTB Faith is not anything new per se, right? Throughout this entire podcast, God has of course been the center of this. God has always been the center of this website. We added the verse of the day very early on in the website's founding, and TTB Faith is just giving it that an official name. And I want to show you guys that the content is not changing. It's just more stuff is going to be created. So it's still going to be the same me, the honest evangelical, same me, still being, sarcastic and calling people out when I see it. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tune into, oh yeah, guys, let's take a picture at church and like wave and okay, that's not what this entire thing's going to turn into when we just like sit there and like look at pictures of me at church. Okay, that's not what TTB Faith is going to be. What we are going to do is we're going to bring up more faith topics, and as they've always been integrated into this podcast, it just has an official name here. But we're doing a new segment where I'm going to try to react to some sort of Christian principle or from a podcast or something like that and give my thoughts on that. And it's going to be a recurring segment, hopefully, and not something that's only, maybe once a month. It's going to be once a week on this podcast. Secondly, what we're going to see on this podcast, as part of TTB Faith, is actually over on the Truth with the Tech Boy web show every Sunday. I'm hoping to go live, and we're going to just read a Bible chapter. I think I have one picked out for tomorrow, but going on into the future weeks, especially when I hit 1,000 followers on Instagram, it's going to be simulcasted on there. We're going to read a Bible chapter, and we're going to do it live. And you guys are going to eventually be able to pick which chapter you want me to read. No, we're not going to read Psalm 117. And no, we're not reading Psalm 119, okay? So we're not reading the 2 verses in Psalm 117, guys. And we're not reading the over 100 verses. I think it's 176 in Psalm 119. So no, we're not doing that. I'm sorry. If you guys want that, then send me some, what are they called? Galaxies, if this is on TikTok. Send me some galaxies. But what we are going to do is we're going to have more segments like that, and then over on Instagram and on Truth to Tech Boy and on the new channel, I'll just call it TTB Faith. We're going to have some sort of Bible related content, but it's not just going to be, oh guys, open your Bibles and this is what the Bible says. Okay, guys, go. No, it's going to give you some plan of action, because I think that action is important. I think that we want to have people that have purpose. We want them to give them some action. I've always been big on this, is that you can't whine about a problem and not give any solution. So that's what TTB Faith is that I'm going to read the Bible and actually give you solutions from this one, of course, a right of center, pro-America perspective. And let's go to Bryce Crawford here, who I do admire this. It's kind of like when I went in this, and you might think, you're really changing at this. And I don't think I'm changing. I think this is basically the Tech Boy doctrine, the Tech Boy strategy 101. Someone said that the Tech Boy strategy was evil because I said that sometimes you have to align with something that you don't agree with 100% of the time. It's like, no, duh, that's how politics works. In any case, Tech Boy Doctrine 101 is, remember in 2024 when they're doing the artificial intelligence influencer Ava Harper, trying to, get these people to come to the website using Ava Harper, and was like, okay, look, you have all these girls, they're on Instagram and, they're popular. So what are we going to do? Well, we're not going to rant against them. We're not going to rail against them. What we're going to do is we're going to copy them. Well, that's basically what we're doing with Bryce Crawford, right? Instead of ranting against this and basically saying it's the same content all the time. How can you have all these podcast topics? You have the 10 Commandments. Okay, great. You do the 10 Commandments, then you kind of run out of stuff, and now you have to interview people. It's like, okay, great. Look, people are wanting this content. People are saying that Gen Z is turning towards Christ. Now, is that true? I hope so. And now some of it, I think, is a little bit trendy. It's like a loose clip, but that might be a kernel of truth in there. And if that is true, then people are wanting this type of content, and I want to help influence this. This is going to be good for America. It's going to be good for the world. It's going to be good for the soul of the nation. So instead of sitting there and, saying all that, what we can do is basically try to do what he does, but do it better, just like what we did with the girls are doing with Ava Harper, but doing it better. So that's been a core part of the Tech Boy doctrine. When we're talking about why we shouldn't be jealous of people more successful unless we should admire them. I still admire those people that I mentioned in there to this day. So yeah, let's go turn to the cameras to Bryce Crawford's clip, and I have some thoughts I want to share on this.
Why is it easier for me to pick my phone back up than it is for me to get quiet with God? And that was like that battle I was having. And finally I got to a point where I just realized that there was a part of me that I wasn't dependent on social media, but I thought that things were dependent on me, whether it was social media or other things. And I realized then that root then means that, oh, God can't do something without me. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, talking to Jesus and going, man, I'm so sorry. Like, I repent for not even realizing that I thought that you couldn't do things without me, Yeah. And ever since, like, kind of deleting the social off my phone and just, getting that time back, getting those, spending more time with the relationships, spending more time in conversation and fellowship with people and Jesus and my wife, and actually enjoying the world that God created. It's definitely, number one, taking a weight off my shoulders, but also I've experienced this new profound level of knowing Jesus.
Yeah.
And it all stemmed back from 3 months ago. I felt like God was telling me to delete social media off my phone.
Yeah.
Right, and he goes into all of this. This is basically, evangelicalism 101, delete social media off your phone. But he brings up a good point with Chandler. I guess he was on Mr. Beast's videos. And essentially, it's saying that, you should be still, you should be silent, you should want to read the Bible. I'll try to find that clip and post it later. And I think that's interesting. I think it's pretty good. But obviously, this is not a show where I just tell the audience basic Christian truths they already know. I want to actually go out there and do something reproductive with my life. I want you guys to be productive with your lives. And I think we can take this advice that Chandler and Bryce are giving and apply it to other things as well. We see, of course, the hatred of social media, the internet, and all these things that are happening across the tech landscape because people are using them as time wasters. When we're in God's word or doing something productive with our time, worshiping God, learning more about him, you can take those same skills and apply them to things that may be secular in our lives. Let's think about social media, podcasting, the internet. Rather than just mindlessly consuming content, you have a goal for yourself, something that you want to achieve. Use that focus that God gave you to read his word, because in the clip, Bryce goes on and says that he wants to, use his silent time to read God's word, and use that same focus to be more intentional when you are consuming content with the goal in mind, whether that's becoming a millionaire or having a certain number of followers or clipping, things of that nature. So when I'm online, right, what is my goal? My goal is to bring you the best defense tech news. My goal is to bring you the best tech news. My goal is, of course, now to bring you clips like this to talk about faith. My goal is to bring you the best, political news and content and make, big ideas small and more accessible for you guys. And that's something I need to focus on more. I need to deliver more clips for you guys. I need to get more engagement from you guys, because I believe that my work here is, of course, what is best for America. I think that you guys can find something in your life, a cause that's bigger than yourself, that you can dedicate your life to. And also bringing it back to the Bible. We don't do this only because it's the right thing to do. We don't do this to beat the focus on the family statistic about 67% of kids dropping out of church once they leave. We do this because there's some sort of moral refining and grounding that's going to actually help you in your day-to-day life, right? If you're reading God's word and you're in his word, then what you're going to see is that you can't have Apple researchers going after you and criticizing you for all of this nonsense, right? It's just, that's not going to have anything for them to go against you, right? You're going to be above reproach. So something, of course, I need to focus on more. And I want you guys to be better versions of yourself, so you can be better versions of yourself for the world, not just for the aesthetics or the clicks or the likes or the what, which is all good, by the way. That's things I'm in favor of, right? I don't like the notion that you don't do stuff for likes. Obviously you do, or just doing it for no reason. I think one of the problems that we have with these Christians is that we tell them to do something, read God's word, or we should pray, but you don't give them a reason other than God told them. I think having a mindset and a lifestyle of focus can help you in life, even if you're not a pastor or running an overtly Christian podcast like Bryce says. God wants us to do everything in accordance with what he wants us, it says in the Bible, so we can make our country better. And of course, my focus here is on the United States of America. So what does this mean? It means basically when you're reading your Bible and you're focusing on something instead of going on social media or watching a Netflix movie and distracting yourself, you can then use that focus in your life to do something secular, but it's still good for God. And when you're in the secular world, you can try to use that focus to make sure that you're being productive with your time. So what exactly does that mean? And how does this tie into the techboy.org? Well, this is a great feature here from Discover, and then we'll get into Notebook LM. So according to Google, in the coming days of the Google app, you'll be able to tap any three-dot menu in your feed to tell Google the exact topics or links that you want to see more or less of in your words. Your feed will adjust on the fly and remember your request. By letting you find your taste in real time, Discover can connect you with content that genuinely matches what you care about right now. Imagine this. So Google has had this feature where you can add websites to your preferred newsfeed for a long time. But now you're going to be able to tell Google, basically tell Gemini, what do you want to see on the page? And you're going to get recommended what you want. That's one of the things I'm in favor of targeted advertising, is because obviously I want to get advertising for things that I want. But for months, I've been working with Claude, I've been working with Perplexity, to help me find topics to talk about on my podcast. So I'm not just distracted, like Bryce was talking about with social media, and I'm not just distracted by, just a Netflix show or anything. I'm not saying I am distracted. I'm just saying I don't want to be distracted. I want to be hyper focused on doing the best for you guys and, of course, doing the best for America. And if this works, then I should get more niche magazines and websites tailored to my interest and not just, these boring local news stories. Like, okay, guy gets shot at Chick-fil-A. Cool. That's unfortunate for him, but I don't really know what that has to do with me. Like, I guess I won't go to that Chick-fil-A. Okay, people don't get shot at Chick-fil-A. It's probably like a Popeyes or Waffle House, but you get what I mean, right? This should be a game changer for Pulse. More evangelical stories, more in-depth tech reviews, more history, and more interesting content that I can enjoy. Because there is this trend that is happening on the internet right now, which is all this content, right? We have all these podcasts, but people just it's harder to find stuff to read, and that's crazy in my opinion. Like I'm a big reader. It's honestly easier to read most of the time than it is to watch a podcast. Like you sit there, a podcast is like 50 minutes long. You can sometimes speed it up. Sometimes they talk a little bit too fast, but it's still 25 minutes. I mean, JFK, the president, he was able to read like 4 newspapers in 20 minutes. I can basically do that, maybe 2 newspapers in 20 minutes. But I can, scan through stuff like this. And of course, with the advent of artificial intelligence, you can have it summarize stuff for you. With these podcasts, if they don't have a good transcript or if they're showing a whole bunch of stuff on the screen, you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to actually have to sit down and do that. And also, I think that reading can, bring you things that you don't know already. And podcasting can do that for the same. But the thing about podcasting is that the podcaster, hopefully, there's some shows like Barely Friends or whatever was this guy. He's like the IQ of 70. I don't know. But the podcasters, they go out there, they do the research, they summarize the topics, and they're basically your ChatGPT for this. So I'd like to be able to. I like podcasts. Don't get me wrong. I like podcasts. I like listening to stuff like that. I grew up on podcasts. I grew up on audio dramas. It's much better, much more productive than listening to music. Like if I'm going to be sitting in a car, if I'm going to be on a long trip, am I going to listen to like 10 songs? That's going to take 30 minutes of my time. Or I'm going to listen to a podcast where I can at least learn something or be entertained. I'm going with the podcast 9 times out of 10. I'm going with the audio drama 9 times out of 10. Not even 9 times out of 10. We're talking about like 999,000 times out of a million. Anyway, but I think that I would like to see more recommendation algorithms for reading. I'd like to see more recommendation algorithms for thinking, for doing things of the nature. Because I think once again with the thing about social media, you're only saying to read God's word. Again, I am a Christian. Reading God's word is important, but it is finite. Okay, it's right here. It's in the book. Okay, once you're done, you're done. Right, and also I want to be able to take some sort of action, and action requires stuff that exists in the present time. So let's talk about news. Of course, I run a news organization. I run a media company. I talk about tech news. So I want to actually be able to read more tech news and not just hear about it. Speaking of watching content, have any of you guys ever seen ESPN8? I mean, there is a sport for everything on ESPN. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy what they air on ESPN8. Okay, I was at an event last week, and they had ESPN8 on. I think they transferred to ESPN2. Okay, in an hour. Listen to the sports that they had on, guys. Okay, ESPN8. What do we have? We have this sport where you get in a blimp, and it's like only 20 blimps left on planet Earth. So, okay, like half the blimp population is here. You get in a blimp, and you fly it around a little bit, and I guess they give you some points. And then you drop stuff off the blimp into holes. And whoever gets closest to the hole wins a point. So there is that. That's a great sport. Then there's this other sport. I don't know if you can call it a sport. It might not be a sport because there's no video game for it. But it's a sport where you ride a badly constructed bike on this really narrow road, and if your bike falls apart and you fall off this little obstacle course of a track, then you fall into the water. And the goal is, of course, to get across as fast as possible without falling in. And of course, they had this very bad looking video game. It's not even the Wii, okay? But imagine Wii quality graphics, Wii Golf. It's like an arcade, and it's a circle. So it's an arcade machine, and they have a ball like this that rolls around. You roll it, and that's how you golf. And that's your sport. And the guy who won got like $30,000. And of course, we can't forget about ESPN8 dunk toss, which is apparently a great sport. guys, this is where all these people came out here. And the only thing I was wondering about for ESPN8 was like, do you guys have jobs? Okay, how much do donk cheerleaders get paid? How many people are watching this? And I can't really explain the rules, but you're just throwing a donkey around and you want it to land in a specific way. And the number 1 seed, by the way, he crushed it. He crushed it. He beat this woman. I kid you not. I got a photo of it, so we'll put it up at the end. I posted it last week anyway. He beat this woman named Melanie Felony. Who's naming these people? Is that actually her name? You beat a felony? Really? Cool. How much? And you get this golden donkey as your prize. So you come out here and you throw donkeys the best way. How do you even practice for this? How do you practice for the sport of donk? But you go out there and you practice 10 hours a day so you can throw a donkey around so you can get this thing. Okay, cool. How much money is in the donking industry? That's what I want to know. Anyway, that's what's happening over on ESPN8. But I did see this TV channel. It was really funny. They had this infomercial up, and it was someone with a hair dryer, or not a hair dryer. It's like a hair dryer, but for outside to blow your leaves off. Okay, it's just a blower. Okay, it's a handheld blower, and they wrote about this thing like it was the highest and best technology that's ever been invented. That no one's ever seen a blower before. So it's just a little handheld blower. And they say, so how do they sell this handheld blower? Well, they do one of those things where they show the blower, a great 3D model of it. I always wonder how they do stuff like that. Maybe I'll have an explainer for this for you guys. They take the blower and then they take the frame off of it and then they go inside and they show you the motor. It has a special name of not the motor, but jet flow technology, I believe. Oh yeah, guys, look at this. This patented jet flow technology. What is jet flow technology? Oh, it's a motor that spins around inside and pushes air out. But yeah, jet flow technology is when you have a motor that goes around 26,000 RPM, guys. 26,000 in a blower. Wow. And the way they demonstrate this, so they blow out some leaves. Ooh, guys, it's basically a hair dryer but for outside. And they blow out some leaves, and then he blew over 3 bricks. They were like a foot away from. Wow, you flew over 3 bricks. Like really? Someone made an entire ad about this dang blower for your hand that can blow over three bricks. Ooh. You know, three bricks is crazy. Ooh, man. Yeah. Who could see that? It's like, okay, really? That's the kind of stuff you see. This was an after donk, but still, I mean, it probably would have shown up anyway. Anyway, before we get to our Google Pixel 11 series, which is, it's kind of disappointing me, honestly. Google, what are we doing? We've got to talk about the Gemini notebook. I don't know why the picture of last week's podcast episode is the picture of the Gemini notebook. Unfortunately, as you can see, the U.S. flag pin is here. It's not here today. It's not because I hate America. It's because I was at an event yesterday and it fell off. So I got to buy a new one. Anyway, and this one was free too, which is really sad. So I'm going to demonstrate how you can import an almost entire playlist from YouTube into Notebook LM. Now, Notebook LM, the free version, only allows you to have 50 videos imported in. My version, I think it allows 100, but it was only able to scan in 89 of my podcast videos, which is fine because that's about 2 years of podcast content. So what you're going to do is, I'm just going to go back to my playlist content over here. So let's actually go to the Tech Boy TV. Right, the Tech Boy TV is all my media appearances. You're going to go double click on here. You're going to click copy link address. You need that copy link address. Now let's go back to detechboy.org. And unfortunately, you have to do this workaround because Google has not figured out that people want to import entire YouTube channels into Notebook LM, which would be some of the greatest features known to man. But once you get through this process, I guarantee you it's very, very useful. So you're going to go to this application, YouTube Extractor 7 Vercel app. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. I didn't say that right. You're going to go into the YouTube playlist video extractor, and you're going to click copy the playlist URL. Unfortunately, if you have a YouTube podcast, the podcast URL doesn't work, but you can still use the regular playlist URL. So that's how I was going to get mine in. You're just going to click extract videos. Here's the Tech Boy TV. And you're going to click copy all links. So this is going to copy all links. Then let's go back to detechboy.org. You're going to go into Notebook LM and create a new notebook. And Notebook LM is called Gemini Notebook now, by the way. I'm just letting it load here. So we're going to go to create a new notebook. And you have to do this on the web, and then you can start chatting from inside the application. And you're going to click Add Sources. And then you're not going to click YouTube. You're going, oh, it's the same thing. You're going to click Websites. And we copy those links, so Control V, copied all those links, all 28 of them. We're going to click Insert. And notice how it's loading all of them from this playlist. Now, if the playlist updates, you have to update it yourself, right? It's not getting it from the playlist. Now, going back to the techboy.org, you're going to be able to chat with each other. And hopefully this means that with my renewed focus, right, as we're putting our mind on Christ, we can also focus on other things as well. Instead of just for this nonsense, I'll be able to have more clips out for you guys. So hopefully that is what happens. Now, let's talk about the Google Pixel 11 series of devices. Now, I'm going to react to the video first, and then you're going to see my take of this. And hopefully, guys, we get some more guests to come on the show, so we have more people to talk to. Really liked the political era on last week's episode. You know, he can always come back on again if he wants to. Anyway, here is Mr. Who's the Boss. And it's kind of interesting how he was able to create an entire video about this phone, because when you hear what I say about the phone, it's shocking that this video is 14 minutes long and not like 2 minutes long, because essentially I was able to summarize what he said in my article, but I want to go over the video to see. Obviously, he's gotten to go hands-on with the device before anyone else did, so it's not like I have access to this technology as of yet. You know, when we make a lot of money, then we're going to be able to do that. We're going to be able to buy these devices. Google's going to give us access to the embargo. Anyway, here we have the Google Pixel 11 hands-on.
Come back from a hands-on with all the new Google phones with software solutions. 11 Pro XL and the 11 Pro Fold.
So we have 4 phones here: the 11, the 11 Pro, the 11 Pro XL, 11 Pro Fold. I don't know why I read that out to you guys, but still. One thing that I do like is the 11 is getting a triple camera system. I've been an advocate of this for years. Unless you have wide and zoom, that's fine. But I've been an advocate of this for years. You have to have these systems on your flagship 11 devices. Apple gets away with it because they're Apple, but I don't support Apple. And I want the Android companies to do what they're supposed to do, right? So I want them to, I hate that shadow that's doing, there you go. I want them to have triple camera, so I will give them kudos for that.
And I think this is the first time that we're really feeling the impact of the current AI memory crisis on the smartphone. Because components are getting more expensive, I can't actually remember a launch event with as few hardware improvements as this, with a couple of things even regressing. But at the same time...
Now, the one thing about that is that, you know, even if the artificial intelligence thing wasn't happening, what really is there to improve on this smartphone? There's tons of improvement in terms of chips and battery life, but unfortunately, of course, people are not pushing it to the highest level. Which takes me back to Bryce Crawford. Like he said, he removed social media applications from his phone. I wonder what he's using for. Like, what kind of research is he doing on there? Obviously, he's going to be texting his friends. Obviously, he's going to be calling people. Obviously, he's most likely the Bible app on there, right? But aside from that, I mean, well, and obviously taking photos. Photography is basically the only thing that's saving the flagship smartphones at this point. Because if you think about that, you know, he could probably use an A56 if he doesn't game, right? Gaming probably falls into the same time cycle thing as social media does, at least in evangelical circles.
Software has no such limitation, and so Google's cranking this lever harder than ever to try and make up for it. There were at least 3 things I'm going to show you here that I would say blew me away. But then, if it is all software, do you actually need to buy the new Pixels? So with the base Pixel 11, for example, when you strip away all the marketing fluff, there are 4 changes to the phone itself. Wireless charging is faster. They bumped it up to the latest 25-watt standard, which is great because this is still the only mainstream.
It's cool, but like, I don't own a wireless charger. I like wireless charging. I'm not one of those, oh, you don't need to have wireless charging on your device. No, look, especially I have an S24 Ultra, so this is going to be a little bit different. But especially when you're paying $1,000 for your device, I know this doesn't cost $1,000, but still, when you're paying $1,000 for your device, you should have a feature on there, even if you don't need it. Right? Wireless charging is useful. Now, would I take a 7,000 milliamp hour battery or a wireless charger? I'm obviously going to take the 2,000 milliamp hour bigger battery, but that's not a choice that's actually been presented to us in the present time.
Android phone with magnets to actually make the most of that. The main camera sensor is 56% larger, which is definitely not a number to be sniffed at. But just bear in mind that this is being improved from a very low base. This takes the Pixel 11 camera from very tiny to as large as the competition's. There's Google's next...
The photographs might actually be a lot better I'd want to see a camera shootout on this because Google's been known for computational photography. I remember back when the Pixel 3a was coming out, everyone was saying it's good. And I actually noticed a photo difference in photos, unless at least in low light photos. So someone took a photo of me on iPhone 11, and yeah, I don't think my phone would have performed as badly as it did. I mean, I was basically washed out. It's a little bit dark, but still, I mean, maybe we're noticing some differences here. Maybe it's because I don't play with other people's phones a lot. Like, obviously, when I go to Best Buy, I take photos. The phones are so locked down that you can't, really take that many photos, right? It's either like locked like this, so you can only get photos of your hand, I guess. And of course, like, what are you gonna take a photo at Best Buy? Oh, look at an employee over there. Look at the PS5, like stuff of that nature. Obviously, the lighting at Best Buy is going to be consistent across the entire board. The lighting over in the computer section is going to be the same as the lighting over there in the phone section, so you can't really do any testing of that. Also, these phones are going to be the best and brightest and newest. And I don't have $1,000 to spend on a phone and bring it back and all that kind of nonsense, do camera shootouts, and I don't have a phone cabinet like Mr. Who's the Boss does, where he has every Samsung phone, every Google phone where you can do these tests. But maybe over time we look at even something from the S24 from 2024 versus the iPhone 11 from 2019, a 5-year gap. I'm seeing some improvement, or at least what I think would be improvement. Hopefully my phone will perform well, at least under those circumstances. We do know it obviously going to blow Zoom out of the water. So maybe we're going to see some massive camera improvements from the Google Pixel series of devices. Is anyone going to care about that? Is anyone going to notice about that? If they cared that much about the camera, would they have gone with an iPhone? Would they have gone with the Samsung phone, which has a much larger sensor? I'd like to compare this against the S24 Ultra, right? It has a larger sensor, but not as much computational photography.
Next-gen chip inside, the Tensor G6, which, when I put it side by side with the last one, I could tell does make the phone a little snappier at opening apps and general browsing, and it comes with a...
That is good. I don't know how long pixels last over time. I know my phone, S24 Ultra, sometimes, especially at times when you need it most. I don't know why. It's like, a big important event is coming up. I need the video edited out by this time. Sometimes the phone's just going to start freezing out. Now, I do know I've been using this phone super duper rough, right? Outside, hot in the sun. It's 117 degrees outside in Arizona. I'm still using the phone. I've been using that phone super rough. I've been to Houston. That's all. I've been to Houston on planes and using the phone. I've used the phone every day, essentially. It's basically my main computer. I only come on here usually to stream and maybe do a little bit of research. So, yeah, I do use my phone a lot more than the average person. So maybe Google's phones would just get killed the way that I use it. So there's that.
Very decent 50% improvement to AI capability. And then finally, the new...
I mean, AI capability only matters when it's on device, which is, again, another reason I don't want to see this regulation, or even why it can't be regulated. When you have on-device models, when you have people cheating with Snapchat AI, and I am going to bang on Snapchat AI until they do better, which, okay, I can code a better AI with my foot. In any case, when you have people cheating with Snapchat AI, then when you have phones that have 16 gigabytes of RAM, you're obviously going to be able to cheat with on-device AI, which is not going to be censored. You can just download the model off the internet. You can just download the model off of GitHub. Heck, you can probably find some little computer that you can connect to and use it off the LAN or whatever. So, yeah, I only care about AI performance when it's on device. If it's 50% better off device, it doesn't matter, especially when it's within the same brand. Like, yeah, I have the audio eraser on my Samsung phone. I guess if I went over to Motorola or nothing, which I actually did get to touch a few days ago, so there'll be a photo of that coming out soon. I guess I won't get that feature anymore. That will be a quality of life that's been moved, but then I do get that back in Instagram edits when I can do some audio editing and voice enhancement while taking out the noise. Now, granted, it is a lot slower, but it still is a third-party app. So anything that can be show locked, I don't really care about.
New phone looks nicer. The camera bar is now all glass, just like it used to be right at the very beginning.
I mean, cool. I mean, I don't really know that many people who buy a phone based on the way the back looks. I mean, I would have bought an Asus Zenfone 10 Ultra if I had access to it, if I thought it was going to be the best phone. My brother says he looks at the back of his phone a lot, but I mean, he's in the obvious minority of viewers. I mean, people are not going to be looking at the back of the phone. They're going to be looking at the front of it where the screen is.
But it does also now protrude around 40% less, which just about takes it to that tipping point where when you have a case on, the bump almost entirely disappears.
This really reminds me of, and I know people You know, the LG V60, which is still probably worshipped to this day, SD card slot, headphone jack that was better than the headphone jack on the S10 series of devices. Of course, you have the dual screen. It does remind me of that, and I do wish they would make phones like that again.
But that is basically it. The quoted battery life, same as last year, where in the real world, Pixel did not measure up very well versus Samsung and Apple.
Yeah, and the thing is worse because actually, this is a spoiler from my article. It's smaller than the last year's battery, which I think should be a crime against humanity.
Every other camera sensor, same as last year. This new chip, while it is faster in some ways, has zero quoted improvements to graphics. So given how far behind Google already was in this department, I would not be surprised if the company's flagship phones this year start getting outperformed by mid-rangers when it comes to gaming. And while you...
So I wonder what games they're actually playing. Like, I was asked this before. What games are you playing that need this intense graphic performance? Obviously, Retroball's not going to need this intense graphic performance. I want to go into a 3D world and live my own life. So maybe something like GTA 6 or GTA 5 maybe. But, you know, just recommend me something like that.
You do get twice the storage this time at 256 gigabytes. You're also paying more for it, with the new phone starting at $899, up from $799.
Yeah, which is, I mean, obviously you have to have 3 cameras on there. You cannot have 2.
Then we've got the new Pro phones, the 11 Pro and 11 Pro XL, which are a pretty similar level of frustratingly subtle hardware improvement, but then with one additional, unusual caveat on top of that. I gotta say, when the company were whittling through the press briefing for these Pros, they really made it feel like everything's better now. They were like, oh, the wireless charging is up to 29% faster. The wired charging is faster. There's this next generation tensor chip. You get a brighter display up to 3,600 nits, as well as 2 times the scratch resistance on it. There's an upgraded main camera and telephoto camera. That sounds
That's useful.
promising. And then next to them, an entirely new feature called Highlight. 8 LEDs in a ring that help you interact with your AI while you're...
One thing this is so useless. So useless. So they replace the temperature sensor, which is actually cool, with this little notification LED for Gemini. It's like, if I wanted to have a look at the back of my phone, at least make it an actual screen so it's useful, like some of the Xiaomi phones.
Your phone is face down and your mind is present in the moment. Well, that seems like a pretty eventful set of changes, right?
You told Mom to send her prescription to Amazon Pharmacy.
Wow, another ad. Here we go. It's like, okay. Oh, wow, look at that. S23 Ultra.
But then we take a closer look. Like the wireless charging, it is faster, but that 29% figure only applies to the smaller Pixel 11 Pro. The XL's figure, hidden in the small print, is actually just 17%. The wired charging, again, is faster, but only very slightly faster on the XL. We're talking 75% in 30 minutes compared to last year, which was 70% in 30 minutes. And then on the smaller phone, it hasn't improved at all. The display brightness figure of 3,600 nits is absolutely on the brighter end, but considering that last year's phones were already capable of 3,300 nits, I couldn't tell the difference in person. The new telephoto camera that
Just be like outside, sun blazing on you. It's, yeah.
they've added does look pretty solid with a 30% larger sensor. But then the new main camera actually looks identical in terms of resolution and sensor size to what we had.
You know, the one thing I hate is when you go into Best Buy and you're going to T-Mobile and you go into these phone stores, everything, all the phones are like turned up super duper bright, and you can't really replicate that when you're at home.
Really, it's just a refresh. And this highlight feature, it's definitely snazzy implementation. The LEDs are super bright and there's enough of them to make for some pretty slick animations. But it's just, we've seen this idea before in multiple different form factors for the best part of a decade now. And Google's implementation of it still doesn't do anything new. Currently, the only 2 things it does are light up with one of 5 different colors, depending on which of your favorite contacts is calling, and then glow when you're talking to Gemini, with 1 pattern when it's listening, 1 when it's thinking, and then 1 when it's responding. But I don't know, man, you'd think you'd already know when it's responding. Really, it's the functionality of a notification LED, just in a fancier package. So fine, the new hardware is already looking a little less exciting, right? Then you realize that to get this highlight in there, Google has also had to silently, by the way, cut the body temperature sensor that you previously had that you could use to check if you were getting a fever, and that,
Well, you weren't supposed to do that, but I'm sure people did. I mean,
to add the few things that they have added, just like the base Pixels, the Pros are getting the same $100 price hike / stopped selling them.
When I was little, I probably would have tried to boot the phone to get the temperature app back on. I remember when Android 6 came out and basically saying we're going to officially support fingerprint scanners on our devices. I thought if I booted my tablet, it was on like Android 4.4 KitKat or whatever, and updated it to Android 6, I'd have a fingerprint scanner in the display, which didn't even exist at that time yet.
The lower storage model thing. So these phones are now $1,099 and $1,299. Oh yeah, and there's actually less RAM than before. The only
It's diabolical. Until you think about it, it's like 12 gigabytes of RAM versus 16 gigabytes of RAM. Are you actually hitting that? I don't know, but it's the principle of the thing, in my opinion. But obviously, the RAM is going to be more useful elsewhere. For the average consumer, they're not using 8, 9 gigabytes of RAM.
The way I even clocked that was by noticing that the language had subtly changed from starting at 16 gigabytes of RAM last year to up to 16 gigabytes of RAM this year. So
But of course, the average consumer, as Juan Carlos Bagnell says, is not an actual thing, and we should let our consumers have use of these things, because I fully support on-device artificial intelligence.
Pros will actually start with 12 this time, which it's not a disaster. It's a pretty common amount of RAM for a high-end phone to come with. And in my quick testing, I couldn't find any specific performance issues that have come from this. And yes, bear in
This is swiping around, it's crazy.
mind, there's a hardware crisis right now, and I don't think Google will be the only company to raise prices. And
The one thing about this crisis is, he made an entire video about how the RAM crisis is affecting video games. Interesting, right? But he made it sound like it's like national news scary, like, oh no, it's good, the democracy's gonna fall, guys. This is horrible if we don't do something. Okay. Oh, your video game console costs more money? Oh no. Tragic. And look, what do you want me to do about that?
find ways to cut back. I've got a full video all about this. But the thing that's peeved me off here is just how much obfuscation there was in Google's press briefing, trying to make things seem like improvements when they're not really. And also how many of the important clarifications were buried in the small print or entirely glossed over. Now, just before some of the rather spectacular software highlights that they're hoping are going to make up for all this, there's one more phone, the Pixel 11 Pro Fold, which again is fairly light on buffs. It's got that faster wireless charging and the new chip. It's got the same new camera as the base Pixel 11 with 56% more light, plus the little highlight LED from the Pro phones. The camera itself has also got a new design, but I can't lie.
They don't. Look, they can't design. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to be looking at the back. I'm not going to hold it against them, but it still just looks stupid.
This is still a pretty clapped-looking phone in my books. Not helped by these corners that
yes, we can. I remember one time I pretended to cut like a corner length.
don't at all match the radius of the body. And then brighter displays inside and out, up to the same 3600 nits that the Pros have, with both screens being tougher to
It's not the best wallpaper for this display.
scratch. There are a few extra changes that are unique to the Fold, like the thinner bezels on the front. These are great, to be honest, pretty noticeable and much needed. Plus the new guy is 1mm thinner when folded up, almost 10% lighter, with a back panel that they're saying is made of a new composite that is nearly impossible to crack. Now that all
Really? I'll crack it.
sounds very innovative and next generation, but thinner, lighter, and harder to crack are also exactly what you would expect to happen when you swap out premium glass for a material that's based on a polymer or plastic.
I mean, that's fine with me, especially if it's lighter and it's tougher. I remember when Samsung was using glass. That was a huge favorite bet.
And this might also be easier to scratch as a result. And of course, the Fold has also had the same $100 price increase as the rest of the phones. But here, without even the consolation of any extra storage, you got 256 gigs last time, you get the same amount again. You just pay more now. So here's the question then. Clearly, Google's hardware is running on fumes. But does it matter when the company's waving its magic software wand around as aggressively as they are here? Because with cameras, for example, there's actually a pretty large improvement this generation to video quality. The way these new phones are...
It makes sense, especially as something that you can't handle with computational photography, at least on your device, especially with only 12 gigabytes of RAM. So when you have a larger sensor and you have some aspects of computational photography that's doing stuff with the lighting and not, just like enhancing on the fly, then yeah, it's going to look a lot better.
processing what you shoot, to my eyes, feels clearly sharper,
I mean, yeah, look at that. I mean, he's a lot less washed out in the Google Pixel 11.
with more accurate skin tones and also lower noise in darker areas. And you can feel that even on the cameras that haven't actually physically changed at all. When you're shooting night sight photos, Google's figured out how to capture the same quality shot, but now just using 1/3 of the light information on the new Pro phones. So you'll see side by side, the Pixel 11's night shots are so quick that it almost looks like capturing regular daytime photos.
Think about it a second. I mean, the only thing I'd ask is if it's just need the power of the chip on that phone plus the lack of RAM. I'm pretty sure the 10 Pro XL can handle that. And no, I'm not going to call for legislation from, you know, they can do whatever they want with their software. I'm just wondering, like, with a software update, with some Gcam is crazy, with some Gcam mod, you know, bring that feature back to the Pixel 10.
And even without any improvement to optical image stabilization, Google's Video Boost. You know that feature where after you've taken a clip, it gets uploaded to the cloud and enhanced? Well, this will now further iron out stabilization
Again, it's in the cloud. I'm hoping it comes to the 10 and maybe even the 9 series.
issues, addressing yet more hardware problems with software solutions. So when you factor in this side of the equation, this does start to feel like a noticeable improvement on the camera front. But where my jaw truly left the chat was when I started to play around with Rambler, because this is the smartest form of dictation that I have ever experienced.
Yeah, I really hope it comes to my phone because I use Whisperflow right now. I use 11 Labs. I forgot the name of the keyboard, but I use another keyboard, Futo keyboard. Yeah, I use them. So if I can use Rambler and I can ramble and it will give me actual sentences, so I don't have to go into ChatGPT or Grok to edit. Amazing.
I'm thinking of naming my child after a Pokemon. Can't really decide which one. Ooh, maybe Pikachu. Actually, no, let's not do Pikachu. Let's do Charmander. Maybe just Char, actually. Yeah, Char's good. Okay, forget everything I said before that. I'm naming my child Char.
I mean, it was a little bit easier because it just skips everything.
Wow.
You told Mom to send her prescription to Amazon Pharmacy. She didn't.
And then what I meant to say just pops in like that. Forgot an emoji? It'll fill that in too. I think this feature is crazy good. And because it's baked into the keyboard, you can use it in any app. And there's a whole bunch of things like it as part of Gemini Intelligence that some other Android phones will eventually get, but Google will get first, like live dubbing. So we pulled up some German YouTube video. The phone then auto-detects that the content is another language, and then after a few seconds just starts dubbing it for you.
The film is really good, really good. It must have been pretty exhausting for the actors, but from the effects here, from the physical effects here, absolutely carlious.
I'm yet to
Oh, so the video is in. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's going to be really good for think about news reports out of other countries.
hear an AI dub that's as well matched to the original as this was. Now, Google did cherry pick the example videos to show this on, and it only supports 4 languages right now, but I still think it's insane. Just for some context, every single video that we upload right now, we are paying around $2,000 to get that video dubbed by humans in 3 languages. This tech could very well in a few years be getting videos dubbed in just as high quality for every single language for free. And while I would personally rather carry on paying for humans for as long as that makes sense, this could be massive for smaller channels who are not going to be able to afford those kinds of fees. That is, until one day Google does eventually start charging us for it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't rule that out.
There's going to be a bubble because they have to get their money back from this.
Also, bear in mind that with all of these Gemini Intelligence features, they won't be available in Europe at launch, which
Of course not. The EU, just like, ugh.
is undeniably upsetting, but the guys seemed pretty confident that we won't be waiting long. Then there's a few final pixel nuggets that will be available at launch, regardless of Gemini Intelligence, like Magic Capture, where let's say you're in a moment that you really want to experience. The idea is you hit record, you don't worry about framing your shot, and your phone will just find the best moments from the clip you end up taking, like when people look into the camera, and it'll just compile those moments as a bunch of stills. We've actually seen something just like this from Samsung like 5 years ago with their single take mode. This is better than that. It can do a lot of face unblurring in the process, so the end shots are really crisp. But me personally, I think I'd rather just either take a few really purposeful shots that I love, or just disconnect entirely and not have my phone out at all.
This is the most, YouTuber-esque Come on, guys, we're gonna live in the moment. Nah, let's get it for the media, guys. Let's get it for the media. We are the media.
All the phones this year have larger digital zoom ranges. Pixel 11 and Fold have gone from 20x to 30x max zoom, although the shots don't look great that far in. And the Pros have gone from 100 to 120x, assisted partly by the new telephoto camera, but also largely by AI. There's Camera Looks, which is basically the same thing as Apple's photographic styles. It lets you tune the shadows and color temperature that your camera shoots with by default.
Okay,
and
nice. But again, software feature. Oops.
That scroll shoots with by default, and Creator Suite, which gives you an on-screen teleprompter that scrolls as you talk, an audio visualizer to make sure that you're not being too loud, and social media layouts on your screen.
I do like this. I do know this is going to be something that's using those classes with trying to teach you how to use social media. There's going to be like in some ad with a recording some video for Instagram with like this random popular person that you've never heard of, probably some sort of streamer, but they pay to use the Pixel 11, but it's going to go straight back to our iPhone 16. But probably like some green hair, by the way. She's going to have like some green hair. She's going to probably wear a jacket and a skirt, and she's going to dance and record some sort of video. They're going to have some like guy with pink hair in the background of the video. And they're going to be talking there, and she's going to talk, oh, this is the day in my life of being famous for something. I don't know. She streams. And she goes to this event and she's recording at the event using the teleprompter, and then her like gay friends in the background. It's crazy. That's what's going to happen.
So you know which parts of it are going to be covered by UI when your video eventually ends up on, say, Instagram. Our editors use bounding layouts just like this all the time to make sure that things don't get cut off on some devices. So baking them into the shooting process is a no-brainer. Also, genuinely incredible feature on the new Pixel watches too. You can just ask AI for an entirely new watch face, and they generate it on the spot. Safe to say I was very happy with my fluffy dinosaur face. So all in all, here's what I think. I think that now the top-end Pixel is the exact same price as the Samsung S26 Ultra. If you're deciding between the two, I think you're getting a lot more phone by going Samsung. Their device is far more powerful, it's got a better screen, better battery, and an S Pen. But if you really want a Pixel, which does have merit like the ultra clean software and early access to these incredible features,
I like the early access. I don't like the software.
Then there's never been a better time to get the last one.
Exactly. Let's go back over to the techboy.org, and I'm going to explain why back on take 3. Wow, that rhymes. Oh, wait, this isn't take 3. Here's take 3. Back to ChatGPTeen, guys. So let me give you the specs. We didn't really get a spec rundown on this one. Here's a spec for the Pixel 11 Pro XL, 256 gigabytes of storage, 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's 6.8-inch Gorilla Glass Victus 2 cover display, 5,200 milliamp hour battery. Except those are the specs from last year's phone. Here are the specs from the actual phone. A smaller battery, 5,115 milliamp hours, but somehow it lasts longer. Maybe something to do with the chip, but still, why can't you put the same size on there? 12 gigabytes of RAM, as we learned from it, and 256 gigabytes of storage. Now, we saw from the video, the camera synthesizers do help contribute to better video quality. And you did get a 10 chip, so it should be a little slightly faster. But is it slightly faster to get paid, let's say, $200 more for it, really? Unless you're in videography, which if you're in videography, I doubt that you're going to be buying this Pixel anyway. Let's see how much a Pixel 10 XL costs. Let's do, yeah. I just really wouldn't get this phone. And if you're in videography, you edit on the device, you're going to want to have more RAM. That you might want to. I'll do a power test on the 10 too soon, I guess. Here's the Google Pixel 10 XL. Let's look at the price over on eBay. Let's see. Yeah, you can get a Google Pixel 10 for $679 versus $899. You can get a Google Pixel 10. No, it's on the Google store. We don't want that. You can get the original Google Pixel for $100. Wow. Still? Should be like $50, honestly. I wouldn't pay for that. You can get one from Walmart at $799, $100 off. No, Pixel 10 XL, sorry. $200 off. So yeah, you can get these phones for maybe $100, $200 off. Honestly, I'd go with that. Also, you get the temperature sensor, which I think is pretty cool. Why we didn't even see? Anyway, yeah, so yeah, that's what I would do if I were buying the phone. But of course, I'd stick with Samsung. In any case, God bless. Tech talk to you later. And guys, the best is yet to come, and the future of America has just begun. God bless. Tech talk to you later. Make sure you guys tune in to our first, the Tech Boy TTB Faith stream.